I know.
Oh,
Hey,
are we live? Did we do the thing finally?
how many clicks does it take to go live?
How many clicks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop? Which, incidentally, is not what we're talking about today. But hey,
No, no, but that's good folklore too, in a way. It's like pop culture folklore, right?
Gen
Oh,
X pop culture folklore.
oh man.
Oh, and then I just bring myself down again for reminding myself how old I am. God.
But we are on the cusp of the new year, right?
Yep. Yes,
Ah,
we are.
we are
Fire
in the mood.
Horse.
Yes, Fire Horse year. Very excited for that year, actually. I think it's just a great pairing with the Wheel of Fortune year.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that makes it very happy for me. And I know that like my zodiac, right? So I would be a fire. What did I say? A fire goat, and you're a
Bleat.
wood tiger, right?
Tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a wood tiger, and I know that I'm exalted in this. So bring it on. Mama needs new things. Mama needs
Bring it. You need
all
it
the
all.
energy clearing.
You
I
know,
need all the uplifting and rising. And hey, if you're
oh,
out there listening with us live or in the replay, send me hugs. Send me good, good luck stuff because
just
I
like
need it.
yeah, a little boost, buoyancy of energies are good to
Yeah.
get. And what else
Yes.
do we have going on? We've got, oh man, that crazy eclipse that's going to be happening. That happens tomorrow, also, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the lunar eclipse and
Oh my
the
God.
fire horse year, and I could go on and on because we've got Pluto doing fun things, and but that will distract us.
Yep. Nope. We're
Oh,
here to talk about something completely different and
yes,
something that's actually kind of neat. And it really perfectly dovetails what we like here at the Jamboree and in our own selves between magic mythology, myth, folklore, and all the shiny things like pens and stuff we get to use to write it all down with. And last September, I don't know, do we want to jump right into it? I guess.
sure.
Alrighty, I should probably ask that before we actually jump right into it. But yeah, I'm excited. Last September, a article came out on Gizmodo that was talking about how chemists have cracked the ghastly truth behind will-o'-the-wisps. Now, for those of us that are folklorists or even gamers, or even if you play Magic the Gathering with the will-o'-wisp card, you kind of, have some idea about what these will-o'-the-wisps are. And in my mind, they are just little light orbs, critters of light, kind of like the Studio Ghibli dust bunnies, except, instead of being black and cute, they're, kind of lit up in different colors. And they tend to appear in various locations, whether it's a bog, marsh, swamp, or cemeteries. And the ones that happen in the cemeteries and like the marshes are the ones I'm familiar with. How about you, Amber?
Yeah, how I kind of define the will o wisp is not, I think they're for me like orbs are different than will o wisp. Will
Yeah.
o things I want to
Yeah.
say. Um, and yeah, I'll see them at cemeteries. I'll see them. We have like some marshy type of areas out here in the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
in the woods and things. And so seeing them there for certain. I did once when I was out in Scotland. I saw one on the water, and that was pretty amazing. And of course, then
Dude.
everyone at the pub starts talking about it. So you get to hear all the fun and fascinating folk tales, right? And everyone's personal experiences, or their uncle's cousin's grandmother. There's these
Yep.
great tales throughout the community. But I was curious because how do you take these senses or things we have and okay, give it some
Mm-hmm.
words. So I checked out Wikipedia to see what they said. So according to them, they're an atmospheric ghost light, often seen by travelers at night. Um, over bogs and swampy areas and marshes. And while they can and have been seen during the day, I think because if you're looking at dusk and night, because they're changing in the
Mhm.
light. So if they're very light, very faint, you're going to see it better when there's less sunlight, or reflected light from clouds.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What I love is that I have a book that's called A Dictionary of Superstitions.
that's such a cool
And they have
book.
yeah, it is. It's, well, this is looks like this, everybody. I know it's out of print, but you can find used copies. Let's see here.
ABE
This one,
Books, I think, has
yeah,
them.
yeah, 1980. This one happens to be the 1984 edition of this book. This I was going to take a class the year I transferred from Colorado State University up, and I moved up here to Portland, Oregon. I was going to take a class on superstition, mythology, and magic, which is, our jam here at the Jamber'ee. And this was one of the books that was a textbook for it. So the little paragraph they have about this is, in cemeteries at night, little flames called will-o'-the-wisps flicker there. For some, these are damned souls that seek to attract the living. For others, they represent the souls of land surveyors that did not honor their contracts and are condemned to eternally measure the land. In any case, they are dangerous, especially during Advent. You must avoid whistling at them, and to get rid of them, you put a needle in the ground and run away. They will escape through the eye of the needle. So this is kind of interesting and almost relevant to the article for a couple of reasons, which I'll get into in a moment. But again, it's that idea of superstition, folklore, these critters, these mystery balls of light that happen, cemeteries, bogs, and other, really, juicy places for life to kind of exist, happens. So, but what I loved about this article is that here is a connection between science going into folklore or superstition and going, what's there? What's going on? Can we prove or disprove, or, can we actually investigate this? Can we use the scientific method to see what's going on? And they did. Researchers explained that will-o'-wisps are tiny lightning sparks jumping between marshy bubbles. That's what creates these will-o'-wisps. I mean, in my head, they've always, risen way above, but for the most part, no. They're kind of just, like the marshes, the lands are here. They've kind of just hovered just barely above. These marshes and swamps are rich in flammable methane, and the microscopic interactions between the water droplets can ignite it. In short, these flames are a product of chemical reactions occurring at a microscopic scale. And the article actually has a little video of kind of like, you could barely see these little flashes, but it will show you it. And, it also brings to mind that earth, air, fire, water, where they were like, water is acting in ways similar to fire with their electrically charged water droplets. So the micro lightning going on in them. And water can, as we know, water is a universal, solvent. It can be, it usually has a neutral pH, but it can also go to an acid or base, depending on how the electrons and what's, around it and floating in it. So it can be positively or negatively charged. And that is what makes the fire happen. It's when they take on these fire-like elements and then react with the methane, because methane, as we know, burns. Methane gas is, a thing. So they were able to, their hypothesis was that the phenomena, I have to do that every time, could have provided the sparks that give rise to these biomolecules necessary for life. And this is also kind of in a joint article in this article, and they were also we also found another article. Science magazine had stuff.
Science.org. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the new work strongly suggests that microlightning indeed helps shape the natural processes. In this case, will-o'-wisps, or the idea of like the sparks for life necessary too. So what I loved about this is that, there's, as we look back on folklore or these tales, again, the superstition, will-o'-wisps are dangerous. Well, why are they dangerous? Well, you can catch on fire if if there's a big enough reaction, around here. And that got me digging deeper and deeper into how does science and folklore interact with one another. Almost like this idea of, being a will-o'-wisp. What's the spark there? And I found a lot of stuff there. However, I know, Amber, you kind of looked at this at a different angle as well. So I want to hear what you have to say.
Yes, because the science fascinates me. And, but I really went down the folklore route with this. And because of just the diversity of the same type of myth and the same type of natural warnings. So, I predominantly you're going to find the people talking about this in Germany, in England, in Ireland, in Scotland. The Netherlands is another place where they're very rich and steeped in folklore, and everyone calls them something a little bit different, right? Regionally, the colloquialisms can be different. And what I thought was fascinating is that they all become these very cautionary tales. So whether it's in Ireland and they see a light over the water, they're like, oh, the sailors, it's trying to draw the sailors to their death. And, or if it's on, people are like, oh, don't go that way. The will-o'-wisps are in that part of the woods, and people go there and they follow these lights thinking these fairies are going to help them, and they never come back again, but it's the cautionary tales because, when you're looking at the science part of it and what may be causing this, maybe it's methane breakdown and things. So for instance, if you're thinking about a great quantity of methane gas releasing on the ocean water, very likely what's going on is that maybe there's a whale carcass, right, or a dolphin carcass that's there and decaying and letting off an intense amount of gas. And of course, then not just you have clear water, you've got salt water, which adds a whole level of conductivity for electricity. So, where sailors might want to go that way because, oh, then we can harvest the blubber or we can get whale meat, the caution there, if they're seeing the will-o'-wisps, is don't go that way. Very likely what's happening also when you have those big carcasses in the ocean is that there are sharks there, and very big sharks that are then in a feeding frenzy. And although sharks are not going out against humans all the time, if you're there in the feeding frenzy, you're going to get impacted somehow, whether a boat gets tipped over, whether you accidentally get bit in the process. So it becomes cautionary tales. So all of these are very cautionary. The same thing, if you're going into the woods and you see them, don't follow the lights. Don't go towards the light, Carol Ann. No, don't, because you could sink, right? That could be an area of quicksand, or just getting like the wagon wheels getting stuck in a marsh and then getting able to get out. And so everything, that's where they start coming together, the folklore and the science meshes beautifully that way.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's, they both communicate. They both, are telling stories. And a lot of people think folklore is like, you can almost do this with the hemispheres concept. Folklore is the right brain of creativity and fancy and all that, and science is the logical side. Because they both communicate things. So folklore communicates. It may not explain how the phenomena works in the world. Yeah, every time, folks. You can count them. But it'll teach people what to avoid or be aware of. Like Amber said, boats on the water, avoid this area because there's a big carcass that might damage your boat or hurt you or something. But science, as we know it and have developed it throughout all these years, I want to say millennia, but it hasn't, it's been maybe 1,000 years less, 500, that we've had science and the scientific process. Science can then come in and examine and create these repeatable experiments to prove or disprove the information contained in each folklore or superstition. You can take a story and go, are there real elements to this? What is the data, so to speak, behind the warning or behind the reason? Like in the Bible, I was listening to a podcast, can't remember which one it was, but there was a podcast episode talking about why the Bible has lepers or ill people wearing tattered clothing, wearing masks and head coverings around their face, and announcing that they're sick, because the science says where they've got something that's communicable. But again, the Bible as folklore, had rules in there about how to protect the community, how to, make sure that what you had wasn't going to be communicated or communicable, to other folks. But yeah, even like the gods and heroes, mythology sheds light on both the secrets of the cosmos and the human condition. And this is something said by somebody named Andradia Miram, who also said, moreover, mythology and contemporary science both explore these natural world secrets and attempt to explain the incomprehensible. Well, a lot of what we have now as science was once folklore. And what stuff that we have right now is kind of, modern day folklore might in the future become science for people hundreds or thousands, of years down the road, because we are still learning and still figuring out, especially as our last podcast suggested about the cryptids, we're still learning about what's out there in this world. Things are still being discovered and learned.
Right. And not only, the other thing that science back then, it was magic, right?
Yeah.
So the magic and the folklore, the mystery, and I think that's a big part of it. And the beauty of humans is being able to take the mystery and combine it with the folklore and with the magic, and create the stories that keep us safe, that keep us developing, that keep us evolving.
Yes.
They're important. The stories, the myths, the folklore, and as well as the science facts and the data, all of that comes together. And it's so fascinating. And then it's like I find things like, okay, how folklore and story can intertwine and kind of connect, right? Because there is a story from Ireland about the origin of the will of the wisp, which also kind of then goes, oh, wait a minute, that's also kind of the origin story of the jack-o'-lanterns that we carve for Samhain. And that has to do with this poor guy named Jack. And what it was that he tricked the devil. And he says, oh, come with me, devil. We'll go to the pub. We will have a pint. And they get there. And so then Jack refuses to pay. And he tricks the devil into turning himself into a coin to pay. And then instead of paying, Jack just takes the coin and puts it into a pocket with a silver cross, which then entraps the devil. And so then he does let the devil back out on the condition that the devil will grant him like immortality in a way. And so the devil's like, yeah, fine. But you don't make deals with the devil. We all know this, right? Little tricksters. And so when Jack dies, because he lived this crazy, sinful life and all, he's not allowed into heaven. The devil's pissed off. The devil's not going to let him into hell. So the devil banishes him to just basically walk around the earth, figure it out. Oh, but here, you can have this little light that will never go out. It gives him this little flame, which Jack wants to then protect, because here he is wandering through all the woods and everything at night and he can't see. So he carves out holes in a turnip and then carries that. So then that becomes the jack-o'-lantern, but then it becomes those lights that you see traveling across these dark, spooky places in the woods. And so I think that's just fascinating that when you start hearing all the traditions and the things that we do as a society and are familiar to us, how everything just kind of blends together.
It really does, because like I also watched this TED talk about all these connections. It was Surjanta Maharaja, SrijintamauRya. The title of it is The Timeless Relationship Between Science and Mythology. And I'm going to share that link in the chat. Oh, no, that's not what I meant to share. My copy paste is broken, everybody. That's something completely different. Gotta love the computers. But Femme presenting, so I'm going to use she, her pronouns. She was talking about how, especially the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and a lot of other folklore, Indian folklore, does talk about what Amber was saying, where mythology with its allegorical narratives and symbolic representations offers an insight into how we think, like how we connect to the divine, the moral fabric of society, the stories we create to tell about how these, phenomena do happen. And, whereas science,
keeping track.
Yep. Science, on the other hand, offers that systematic empirical approach that reveals the intricate mechanisms of the natural world. Like, most people would see this as a contradiction. However, she talks about it as a convergence because both domains have the power to ignite curiosity. They expand our understanding and inspire us to reach new frontiers of knowledge. They offer the distinct perspectives that, when we examine them together, provide our collective understanding of the universe and our place within it. May knowledge, whether derived from mythology or science, guide us towards this enlightenment, a unity, and a deeper appreciation of how the intricate tapestry that is the universe. Because both of them look for those insights on the nature of reality, our human existence, and the universe. That's, science. A lot of people think that science is outward facing, like health wise, better tech, connection and stuff. But it's also an internal. If we think about, psychology, the social sciences, anthropology, stuff like that, we're all trying to understand the human condition and what, might be. And I also found another article that talks about the idea of the nonlinear time concept to illuminate the intersection of religion and science. And it's by Judith Gianni from Johns Hopkins. And I haven't read the whole thing, I'm going to say that. But the abstract talks about how ancient stories, particularly those with religious ties, are often dismissed as mythology and regarded as lacking scientific credibility. But if you think about Genesis, the Genesis creation story, they've actually, this article goes in depth about it, where our purpose is to show that Genesis likely had its roots in valid science, but the temporal ordering relative to scientific record is nonlinear. So throughout this, she and a bunch of others address the problematic aspects of reconciling the two, and then they outline a possible path to kind of like resolving them. And they have a mathematically based BCE calibration for the creation dates, demonstrating that science and Genesis are fully consistent, differing only in the method used to express their dates. And again, the article is really long and kind of a little bit over sciencey over my head, but there are formula. There are charts, there are, ways that you can do this. And just that idea of non-linearity where, we think time as, always moving forward. It's 10:27 on my clock right now. Our live has been going for 23, 44, 45, 46 seconds now, but we think as people, we think non-linearly, memory. We delve into the past. Sometimes we create futures for ourselves. We think about possible realities, and all that isn't time-based. That's non-linear thinking. So, yeah. And I had come across a video, and I'm going to stick it in here also, which I thought was an interesting one, because especially because you were just talking about Indian things, and this was somebody with his friends who are in an Indian temple, and they are they're outside the temple, and they are discussing mythology, the mythosphere, and science. And so they talk about some of the popular myths that have to do with risk and safety. And so much of this comes from watching our natural world and understanding it. And
Science helps us dig into that. And sometimes it's like, what came first, right? The chicken or the egg? Which came first, the myth or the science? And I think that there are things throughout history, throughout cultures, that's blurred. And I think sometimes the science came first in some instances, and other times the myth came first. But finding out. And the beauty is that the stories help us ask the questions
Yes.
that can save us. And yes, I mean, I know some of the articles that I came across, like way, way, way too sciencey jargon for my little brain. But so enjoyable. And because
Yeah.
once you start looking into this, you very much start bringing in the string theory and multiverse, and it's fascinating how you go, here we go from this mythology and this folklore about will-o-wisp, but all of a sudden we're talking about quantum entanglement.
Yes.
Fascinating, absolutely
Or even
fascinating.
or the creation of the universe through the eyes of Genesis being, scientifically relevant.
Right.
Just, it was constructed out of order. But, it also brings the idea of knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is a teaching tool, and how we use superstition, folklore, magic as a way to teach about, sciencey things without actually knowing how to, demonstrate it, because humans are constantly evolving, as Amber said. We're learning, we're growing, we're evoluting. And, what was once a story, we now have the data set behind it, or the technical tools to actually really look under a microscope and see this stuff. I mean, all this stuff has existed. It's just that we as humans needed to create tools or ways of, other dealings to see, like, glasses. With my glasses off, I can't read the chat screen that's, literally within 14 inches. But I put these on and I can actually see. That's science, that's technology. But in the past, if somebody found the glass lenses and they could, it would warp their, world or bring it sharper into focus, that would be seen as magic. That would be seen as witchcraft, almost. Humans shouldn't need, glasses or, things to see. We hear that a lot with other things these days, but we have the scientific backing. We have the proof, we have data sets, and, the two intertwine beautifully together, where, if you're really nerdy and you like using the data sets to describe things, and yet you're talking to kids or something, you wouldn't, bust out these, huge equations to them. You'd come up with a myth. You'd come up with the story behind it. One day a positive electron liked a negative electron enough to come together to form, helium or, hydrogen, and a hydrogen molecule liked its, an oxygen one enough twice over to create water. That's folklore in a way. The stories that back that data set, and then you can parse them as people, because we're constantly saying, people like stories. People, thrive off story.
Yeah, it's all story.
It is.
And it's beautiful. And the fact that I know so many scientists and, have listened to many, many podcasts, astrophysicists and specialists in quantum physics. And they love graphic novels. They love stories. They and they see these amazing ties to where they're at with their high level of learning and education, to the latest edition of Star Trek. And so to me, that's just another proof of how important the two worlds are to each other. And yes, often science may, disprove something from folklore, like the will-o-the-wisps.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they don't, a lot of times, they're not going to be gatekeeping, going, you have to stop believing this. You have to stop liking this, because that's not how it really happens. Yeah, you can have this and that, because those myths and those stories those belief systems that have been passed down to us, whether it's through
Mm-hmm.
the Bible, through the Quran, outside of religion, or Grimm's fairy tales.
Yes.
They help write us. They help write us. They help us keep moving and evolving, like we keep saying. Evolving. Yeah, evolving.
Yeah. Evoluting.
Evoluting.
Wait,
So
I had to think that one up again. But yeah, it's, I mean, when you say that, I even think about Santa Claus, the magic of Santa Claus. One of the most powerful times for pagans to really, do, well, two of them, one of them being Christmas. All those kids believe in Santa so much that you've got this huge structure around the magic of Christmas. And we can tap into that if you're a witchy person, or even not. You can tap into that to have dreams, your hopes, wishes, and dreams come true, because your hopes and wishes get added into that idea of Christmas, the magic of Christmas, and then that can be manifested through the power of other ways in the universe. The second one can be like Valentine's Day. People that have such strong love for one another, they put that out, or it's a day where everybody, at least this past one for me, the bonds of friendship, over divination and magic were very strong. And that left me feeling hopeful and uplifted. So, again, if, you want to have a magic, if you're part of the pagan community or the magical community, you can take these ideas of folklore, these stories, these times of year where we have these stories, like the Fire Horse celebration that's coming up, and you can perform ritual around it. A friend of mine gave me a very cool clearing ritual to do before tomorrow. And I did that on February 15th to the letter. And when I was done with it, I actually felt a little empowered. And I was able to do, I smudged my house to get rid of all the old energies and everything. I figured that would help out as well. So, and even smudging or burning smoke has scientific background and benefit to it. Microbes that kill things in the air. There are articles on that even. So there is a lot of connection between the benefits of doing these rituals, delving deeper into the mythology, the superstition, and the folklore of everything, and combining it with modern day practice, science practice, belief systems, structure, and figuring out what is beneficial to you and what isn't. Uh-oh, we've lost Amber. Shoot, we've really lost Amber. And she's back. Apparently,
man, that water going down the wrong pipe did a lot of things there.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
Nope, can't hear you. I don't know. I don't know if we have any viewers out there, but nope, she'll be back. But yeah, I'm kind of stunned because I'm not sure what to say next, because I, did this big mic drop.
Okay, is it coming at all?
Nope. I guess this is where we might end it then, since nope. You want to talk more, huh?
I don't know if it's coming. No, we can say goodbye.
Well, if you private chat, I'll be able to, 1 minute, folks. We're doing it live. Yes, that's what okay. Yep. So thank you all for showing up or being in the replay. Thanks to Amber for leaving on that epic mic drop. I guess she was just, I did the deepest wisdom for the day and she had nothing to say about it. But no, thank you for hosting. Thank you for being an awesome co-host. And I guess, yep, love to me from Amber, love to you all. And yeah, go learn, find your favorite folklore story, find your favorite superstition, see what science might have to say about it, because there might just be something out there. And if not, is there anything you can do to try and, modernize it, or see if there is, some sort of science to it? And if so, let us know in the comments. And until then, we will see you next time. Yes, stay curious.